Hopefully, I'm getting the hang of this equipment now. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks for being here. Um, this will be part two of the reply to Hoshina GoroTara. I've already recorded this, so I'm going to try my best to recapture what I talked about the first time. Again, a problem I'm having figuring out this equipment is I made this complete video and the audio came out so terrible I couldn't possibly post it. So here we go again. Leaving off at trusting only to his own view, he has forever violated the Buddha's intention. Ouch. Think of a way to start this one. But in the next paragraph, the great teacher Miao Lo states, quote, I call upon those with eyes to examine this thoroughly. Is one not without eyes who regards the Lotus Sutra as inferior to the Flower Garland Sutra? The Nirvana Sutra says, or reads, quote, if there are persons who slander the correct teaching of the Buddha, their tongues should be cut off, end quote. Now, how pitiful that those slandering tongues will utter no words in world after world, and that the eyes clouded by false views will fall out in lifetime after lifetime, seeing nothing. Now, I'm sure it's not just me. As I read this, it occurs to me this sounds very much like a preacher, right? Whatever denomination. It's very strongly worded in the words of sutras, of commentaries, of scholarship. But certainly, this is an emotional point. Moreover, the Lotus Sutra says, quote, if a person fails to have resolute mind of determination, but instead slanders this sutra, when his life comes to an end, he will enter the Avicii hell, end quote. I'm going to do a video after this. I won't spend much time on it because it's not part of this video. But this question of self-manifestation has been coming up over and over again. And I understand words are tricky, and my whole impetus behind these videos and these teachings has been to decipher as much as possible our human fallacy of communication and language. And language is amorphous. It changes all the time. And here we're touching again on, what is the Avicii hell? Where does that come from? Where does that go? This comes up over and over and over again. And this because we're reading very, very old texts and things that were relevant and easily understood to people of those days. Today, the human mind compartmicompartmentalizes and classifies and parses things out. And today, at the speed of microprocessors and much faster speeds, our human mind, boy, it seizes upon every single syllable of every single word and tries to make a mountain out of each one of them. Remember, as Buddha and Nichiren and many scholars have said in Buddhism, our habitual way of doing this makes us pay incredibly minute attention to words, and then we get completely confounded by figuring out the meaning of words, missing the greater picture of not the words, but the assemblage of words over stories and text and so forth. What we should be looking for is the meaning beneath those words, the meaning of the entirety of the collection of those words. Because when we spend all our time on words, we're critiquing the speaker instead of critiquing the thought. Okay? And I'll leave it at that, because I could just spend all day talking about this, just what's implied in this very sentence. But the next video I do will be on self-manifestation. We'll cover all of this, okay? So, to continue. If this statement is valid, Kobo will surely fall into the great citadel of hell of incessant suffering, where he will undergo agony for immeasurable millions of kalpas. I won't repeat myself. You should also recognize the fate of Shandao and Honen through his example. Who among those endowed with wisdom will dip into the stream of such slanderous teachings and be consumed together with these men in the flames of the Avicii hell? Truly, the practitioners of Buddhism should fear this. These are all persons of profoundly distorted views. In this connection, we find among the true and, sorry, page turning karma, the true and golden words of the thus come one, quote, this devil king Papias will in time try to destroy the correct teachings of mine. He will be like a hunter who wraps his body in a priestly robe. He will change his form into that of stream winner or once returner or non-returner, an arhat, a pratyeka Buddha or Buddha, and will try to destroy the correct teaching of mine, end quote. These are all references to earlier teachings. The once returner, non-returner, an arhat, that's the highest level of enlightenment or awakening prescribed in earlier teachings, what's often called Hinayana teachings. They still exist today. They still influence other earlier sects. Pratyeka Buddha or Buddha comes up later in the teachings, and in the Lotus Sutra alone, Pratyeka Buddha or the activity of Buddha is clearly defined and goes far beyond Arhat. But at any rate, he's talking about posers. Okay, we've already seen that in Texas. There was a guy several years ago claiming he was Maitreya Buddha. And that's long been disproven, but I'm sure he still has adamant followers. So these are just contemporary concerns. Shandao and Honen, displaying a variety of majestic powers, deceived ignorant priests and lay believers and schemed to destroy the thus come one's correct teachings. Now understand, destroy the correct teachings, slander against the correct. It's all the same verbiage about misleading people, giving their own vain interpretations to satisfy their own vain needs. It's always the ego. They deviate from the sutras and Shakyamuni's very straightforward teachings, really. The followers of the true word school, in particular, make it a point to emphasize worldly benefits exclusively. I'm pausing there because there are one notable group comes to mind because I have my own experience with them, but there are groups, organizations that will use the Gohonzon as a sort of a wish-granting jewel, to use the words of many translations of old sutras, and tell you that the whole purpose of chanting is to get what you want in this life. They play on human greed, and by playing on that, they actually enforce it. So this is an evil friend. This is somebody misconstruing the teachings of the Buddha. And you won't attain enlightenment this way. You may get a few benefits, but those worldly benefits are not the purpose of practice. They're, I was going to say, they're conspicuous, and they call attention to the success of your practice changing your life, but they're not the goal. So this is very dangerous. You can accrue a lot of friends quickly if all you do is hand out money, but not knowing anything about how to use the money and how to benefit your life with the money, it doesn't help you to have money. Countless stories of wealth turning people into drug addicts and dying a miserable death. So it's not the money, it's how you value yourself. Okay, so using animals as objects of devotion, they can conduct meditations not only to satisfy the amorous passions of men. How can I better my relationships with men or women? And women, but also to fulfill desires for manners and the like. They claim such trifling results as wondrous benefits. However, if they are going to assert the supremacy of the true word teachings on these grounds, they are no match for the non-Buddhists of India. In other words, now he's saying, well, if this is all you're reducing the practice of Buddhism to, then any other practitioner of any other faith or religion, um, they may be more actually true to the intents of their practice than these Buddhists are, because they're not really Buddhists. So again, strong wording, but to be noted, because as you know, this whole Gosho is a personal letter to a high-ranking follower of his that uh, switched philosophies, used to be a true word school adherent, and he and his lord, his his boss, if you will, both uh, I never remember the right word here, but they switched to Nichiren's teachings and left the true word school. Um, so so that's partly why you're hearing almost these admonitions to reinforce that they've made the correct choice, because look at what you were doing before. Okay, so that in here Nichiren is acting as a parent. The ascetic Agastya kept the waters of the Ganges River in his ear for 12 years. The ascetic Jinu swallowed up the four great oceans in a day, and the non-Buddhist teacher Uluka turned into a stone and remained that way for 800 years. So he's talking about some of the folklore and stories attached to other non-Buddhist traditions. How could the results of the true word school's meditation surpass these? So he's saying, even if you're non-Buddhist and you follow the folklore of these potential masters, uh, how much more powerful are they than you just getting a Cadillac or a great relationship? You know, I mean, you've placed Buddhism in such a callous little place of such immediate gratification uh, that it doesn't even compare to the non-Buddhist stories that you've grown up with. So the ascetic Gautama, now we're talking about Siddhartha, um, assumed the form of the god Shakra and preached for 12 years while Kobo transformed himself into Vairochana for an instant. Judge for yourself whose powers are the greater. If you believe that such transformations are significant, you might as well just believe in the non-Buddhist practitioners. Yet, it should be known that while the non-Buddhist practitioners possess such impressive powers, they could not escape the flames of the Avicii hell, not to mention those with only trivial powers of transformation. Even less can slanderers of the great vehicle avoid this fate. The priests of the true word school are evil friends to all living beings. Avoid them, fear them. The Buddha states, quote, have no fear of mad elephants. What you should fear are evil friends. Why? Because a mad elephant can only destroy your body. It cannot destroy your mind. But an evil friend can destroy both body and mind. A mad elephant can destroy only a single body, but an evil friend can destroy countless bodies and countless minds. A mad elephant merely destroys an impure, stinking body, but an evil friend can destroy both pure body and pure mind. Here he's referring to some of the teachings to unfortunately, label the body such a vile thing, um, as to diminish its importance and try to lead you to think in more pure ways. This is employed by teachers of various sects, Buddhist and non-Buddhist. Immolation comes to mind, um, like the story of Christ, immolated on a cross and then coming back purified. This story is over and over again in so many religions. A mad elephant can destroy the physical body, but an evil friend destroys the Dharma body. Even if you are killed by a mad elephant, you will not fall into the three evil paths. But if you are killed by an evil friend, you are certain to fall into them. A mad elephant is merely an enemy of your body, but an evil friend is an enemy of the good law. Myoho Renge Kyo, the Dharma, the way, the true, clear way of life. Therefore, even more than venomous serpents or malevolent demons, one should fear the evil friends who follow Kobo, Jandao, and Honen. This is just a brief clarification of the era of holding distorted views. The messenger, he's, they didn't have internet or even post office in those days. What you had was a messenger who would show up with several messages and gifts from people who are sending them to you, and then would wait there for you to respond. So in this case, the messenger is obviously tapping his foot in front of Nichiren and saying, I've got to go, or I'm going to be snowed in, or whatever the problem was at the time. The messenger is in such a great hurry that I have written only a small part of what I had to say. So this Gosho will be repeated in many ways in other Go shows, but more strictly to this person, Hoshina GoroTara, because he's only gotten part of what he wanted to say out. So he'll have a lot to say on misinformation and evil friends, you'll see. When an opportunity arises in the future, I will write to you again examining sutras and commentaries in detail. Never show this letter to anyone. If I survive until then, I will visit and talk with you in the autumn of next year as you requested. With my deep respect, Nichiren. So, um, yes, he was in exile at this time, and the survival, his survival was often in question. So that's why that little note at the end of this. Um, Never show this letter to anyone. That's kind of powerful. Um, Nichiren was acutely aware of not only his own persecutions, but that his own persecutions were also suffered by his adamant followers, his students. And so when he started talking about, here's the correct decision you've made to start following the true teachings of Buddha, as opposed to these teachers of the true word school. And there are others like this. I think he named them earlier, or some of them anyway. He did a whole go show on the 8 errors and the 8 sects. In his day, there were 8 competing sects, and they all had their fallacies, and he did a whole go show about that. I've done videos on it. Um, so he was very aware that if he was going to take such a strong stance as he did in this letter to help his student, this particular student, um, that he was taking a chance. That if somebody else saw this letter, they wouldn't understand the teachings or the relationship between Nichiren and this follower, and it could get him, not Nichiren, but his follower, into a great mess of trouble, even life-threatening. So he's telling him, don't share this with anyone. This is just for you. Of course, we're quite a ways removed. Excuse me. We're quite a ways removed from that today, so we can talk about it without violating Hoshino's privacy. Um, but this is a great demonstration of Nichiren's compassion in the midst of a fervent dialogue, saying, now be careful with this information. Um, and with that, I will close out this Go show, this discussion on this Go show, and I will run headlong into self manifestation. So, uh, hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much for your support, as always. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Take care of your health.